Let the final run-in begin. The Town go to Hull City on Saturday afternoon for what is a huge game of Sky Bet Championship football, and alongside me to preview it, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, you said in the last podcast that Hull are one of the teams we have to win, so we're going to be previewing a must-win game.
That's it. A must-win. Pretty much all must-win.
We'll look ahead to the first of 8 huge games of football right after this intro.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning longest running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I suggested before the intro, we are looking ahead to Hull City versus Luton Town. Change kickoff for this one, 12:30 lunchtime.
Boo.
If you've not got a ticket in the away end, Sky Sports Plus will be your friend in the UK, as that is going to be showing the game. And alongside me to preview it, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, 2 weeks off from football. I think we've both calmed down a little bit from where we were after that Middlesbrough game. I was kind of not at ease with the Middlesbrough game, but more encouraged by the fact that we can play that well. Of course, we all know the cherry that needs to go on top of all of that. But, you know, we've looked ahead of it. We've looked at the other fixtures and we've kind of seen that maybe the sort of size of the task isn't quite as numerically huge as what we thought it might have been sort of going into the international break. We've used that wisely. But if we can knock off 3 of the points here, my word, it would be probably 2 steps up the ladder, not just 1.
Yeah, it's going to be really important to come out of the international break on a high. Should have gone into it on one. Gone on, you know, in a relative sense, the performance offered food for thought and bit of optimism. And yeah, when we did that last podcast that we ran through all the potential, what we think might happen. And yeah, maybe because of that performance, we slightly had rose-tinted spectacles on. But I think that it's not as difficult points-wise. I thought that all along anyway, just from what I was seeing of the other teams and all the fixtures and results. Not as difficult as previous seasons to stay up, because there's a lot of dross down the bottom, including what we've been putting out as well over the course of the season. Obviously, I think that there's been some improvements over the last couple of games, and I think that offers some hope. And the fact that we are going to play Hull, who I think are pulling away, and I think they'll be safe, but they're still down there in and around it enough that that's a game you've got to target. We've got away victories off the monkey off the back now, so there's no reason that can't happen. Whereas before you'd think, well, where's away victory's going to come from? And pretty much got to go to all those. There's 3 teams, aren't there? Derby, Stoke and Hull all the way, which should be winnable. But because of that away record, you're thinking maybe not. But now that's changed. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about this, and I've still got that stat in the mind, and don't shoot the messenger, this is just what's happened. When Luton have come back from an away from international break, they've won. So here we are.
Yeah, you've beaten me to that reference. I was going to talk through a 3-point away day quite regularly through this, because months ago you gave us 3 points in this game. Let me just reiterate what we said for the last one, for those of you that have given us comments and think that we're miles out and all of that. We don't think we've got the numbers that we crunched in the last podcast bob on. But what I think we can say is we're not going to be miles out. So, you know, we were talking 45, 46 to keep us up. basically what we take away from that is we don't need the 51s and 52s of seasons gone by. That's the overall sort of thing that that we take. If you need 47, 48, well, what's a point or two between friends at the end of the day? But let's hope 3 points come along here. They generally do when Luton play Hull, it has to be said. Since Luton were promoted back into the Championship the first time round, Jimbo, we've played Hull 6 times and 5 wins and a draw. That's very, very good form.
Yeah, like that.
The draw being the last day of the season 2 seasons ago, where, as I referenced in that last podcast, we rotated everyone because the playoff semi-final was so soon after that. And obviously at Hull, we've got a really good recent record. The Great Escape was only the Great Escape because of Kazenka Lua's late goal during COVID. We went there roughly this time 3 seasons ago and won 3-1, capped off by James Bree's free kick, which has been doing the rounds on social media this week in lead up to its anniversary. And then, of course, 2 years ago, Broom Henry Lansbury got the lawnmower out, didn't he, in a 2-0 win that night. That was a Friday night. It's a happy hunting ground, the MKM Stadium or the KCOM Stadium or every other sponsorship that's gone around that place.
Yeah, it has been, and we've got to hope that can continue. I am more optimistic than not about going up there to play them. They are one of the better teams around the drop zone, and I think that they will be safe in the long run. But if we're taking this sort of 8-game block in its own mini season, as we did in the Great Escape back in the day, then it has to start off with a positive. And that the one in the Great Escape did relatively start off with the positive, because we all thought we were going to get beaten by Preston, and then Callum McManaman pops up and gets that, and then obviously it was a few further games down the line when we went to Hull and Kazenga pulled that goal out of the bag, and that really lit a flame under that possibility. And I've referenced a couple of podcasts back that I think we may have already had that goal. We might have already had that goal, which kickstarts it, and that could have been Jordan Clark's up at Cardiff, because we were all fearing the worst at that stage. We were 8 points back with them 1-0 up Cardiff, so that could have already happened. I would love a couple of other thunderbolts to come out of nowhere to really give us some room for manoeuvre here, but well, that's all to say that I'm quite confident that this can happen.
Yeah, me too. And I'm looking forward to this game. As I say, we've got a good record there. It's a happy hunting ground for Luton. You know, obviously our first visit there way back when, 20 odd years ago, that didn't go pear-shaped. But most recently, it's gone very, very well. And you're right. I think Hull are the best team in the bottom 8. They're that on paper. They're that probably in their recent record. You know, this is the side that have gone to Sheffield United and gone to Sunderland in the not too distant memory, and they've won both of those games. And if you think of how we fared in both of those games, that would tell you where we're at. They're not as good at home. They've won their last 2 at home, the caveat being against Plymouth and against Oxford, so 2 teams firmly in and around us. But of course, they'll be seeing us as similar games to that, and sort of hoping that they can kickstart their safety bid, because they're not safe. They're only 3 points ahead of Derby. They might be 6 points ahead of us. They're only 3 points ahead of Derby, 4 points if you bring their game in hand into the equation. But they're not a flashy side, Hull. They're a solid side who, when everything goes their way and they play well, they can, as they showed at Sunderland and at Sheffield United, they can beat anyone. But when it doesn't go so well, they're also capable of losing to everyone. You look through the stats for the top end of all of the numbers in the Championship, they don't register on any of those, but by the same token, they're not down at the bottom on many of them either. They're just a solid Championship team, really, which I guess when you think where they were going, I mean, when they came to our place, they were in all sorts of mess, weren't they? They had the overseas manager, Tim Volta, who'd literally just been given the talk from the chairman that he was going to be there forever and a day, and then got sacked 3 days after we beat them. Whereas Ruben Selles, who's gone in, he's got experience of these relegation battles at Reading, kind of I've not seen too much of Hull other than those two games I just referenced, Sheffield United away, Sunderland away. But whenever I've seen him, he seems to have a calmness around him, much like Matt Bloomfield's got, actually. Whereas you can tell the ones that are really panicky because they're on edge all the time. And he sort of represents a solidity as well. I don't mean this to sound nasty, so I apologise if it does, Hull fans, but they're solid but unspectacular. But to be honest, in this league, that's all you need.
Oh, you could inject solid and spectacular into my veins, quite frankly. I'd love a bit of that. But yeah, you're right. That is what you need in the position that Luton and Hull are relatively. You need a bit of that, and that's why I make them comfortably they're going to stay out. So just make sure that you start that run after this game, Hull, because we really need the points. But yeah, Ruben Tellers has also had the experience of going in and having to mop up after Nathan at Southampton, didn't he? I mean, it didn't work out, but it's given him relegation experience, and he's got some stripes for that, hasn't he? So that probably helps. I think since he's come in, they have picked up enough that we're not really thinking about them as relegation potential, even though the points say that is, and that they'll obviously be looking at this as one massive chance to put some clear daylight between all those teams that are in bother. So it's not going to be easy, obviously. But I don't know. I haven't had this a lot this season. There's a little gut feel here that I think that we could do this.
Yeah, I think what I want to stress for this preview is I'm kind of only worried about March in terms of when we assess Luton, because I'm convinced something happened at Watford. I mean, nothing happened that we wanted to happen, i.e. on the football pitch. But since then, there's been much more fight, which we didn't have, we just did not have it. There's been a bit of quality now and again, certainly lots of it in the Middlesbrough game up until the final hurdle, but the goals at Cardiff were quality as well. And there's been more of a tough to beat to us. The Burnley game aside, you've got to use that as a caveat. 11 men don't beat Burnley, 10 definitely don't beat Burnley. But in the other three games, the three games that you'd expect us to be competitive in, we were more than competitive in. And that's making me think that combined with 2 weeks on the training ground, and we know Matt will have been working really, really hard. He's a diligent worker. That's the one thing I have taken from him ever since he walked into the building, that he works hard. Clearly, he's been working very hard on the defence. That much is so obvious. You only have to look. We are a lot more organised defensively now. Take that Oxford game out of the equation. That's becoming more and more of an anomaly by the game, really. Generally now, teams are having to do something to score against us. Callum Chambers from the edge of the penalty box. And the likes, again, ignoring that Burnley game, it's just not a game to keep on referencing because of the caveat of the change of it so early on in that game. But generally, it's a iffy decision here, or a piece of spectacularness that gets the better of us now, which wasn't the case. And now when we're playing against these teams at the bottom, we know they're not capable of too much of that, which gives me the confidence that with 2 more weeks on the training ground, hopefully to improve the other end of the pitch, that we can hit the ground running here and get ourselves closer to getting out of this mess that we found ourselves in.
Yeah, very well articulated. That's what the kind of what I was feeling. What I just said, gut feeling. But I think it's the percentages that they're playing with at the back has given more of a platform that yes, we all know that they have to bloody start scoring some goals, because one a game's not going to be enough probably. But you create the chances they did against Middlesbrough, stick 2 of them away, then there's a big old chance. And because the solidity relatively at the back is improving, and which is what he did at Colchester, and it's what he did at Wickham. We all reference when he first got the job, it took him a month or 2 to do it, and that's where we are. So you can see where the work probably is, and we've seen it with our own eyes defensively. I mean, to keep Middlesbrough to 0 shots on target was phenomenal, regardless of what the players they put on the pitch. They still had Azaz there, and a few others, Conway. That's good as well. So You keep that solidity, play like you did in the first half against Sheffield United and Middlesbrough. And then, there's a genuine chance there. And it could be that though the result clearly didn't go away there was something that they could take into this 2-week period to work on and to improve from a more solid base. That gives me more confidence as well.
Yeah, that's it. As I say, whatever it was that happened after that Watford game, this team does look to have immediately transformed since then. So that certainly bodes well for these last 8 games. The other thing that bodes well, we probably didn't want that break to come in the fact that 7 points from 12 games, so 7 points from 12 available in the 4 games prior to the international break. But what it has done, not just 2 weeks on the training ground for Matt with the players, 2 weeks to get some players fit. We heard going into that international break that Tahith Chong's on the grass. They were talking about him being very close after the international break. We've heard nothing to suggest otherwise. Obviously, we're recording this prior to Matt's press conference, which I'm sure he'll confirm either way the status of Chong. But we're expecting him to be in and around it for this game.
Yep.
I don't think he'll start. I wouldn't have thought he would have started anyway. If you think he's been out a similar length of time to Reece Burke. Reece Burke came back on the bench at Cardiff and he was there if we need him. And I kind of get the impression that's where Chong will be. But he would offer up a significantly higher importance off of the bench right now than maybe a Lasse Nordas who doesn't look quite ready. We know Chong is championship class. It's a proper strong option off the bench, if indeed he's on it.
Yeah, I think he will. That's the kind of noises that I was hearing and just the vibe of the whole situation. I think that he'll be available for that. I don't think for one second that you can possibly throw him in a starting lineup as you did, as you saw with Reece Burke. He came on and got the confidence of seeing out a first away win since September. So, I think as an impact player off the bench, then it is a really strong option because that's what he was in the Premier League when he was starting and then it wasn't working. Edwards took him out. A couple of good impacts off the bench, and then he really finished the season strongly, didn't he, Chong? And he'll have that. He'll have energy in his legs because he won't have been hammered for the last few months. We haven't seen hide nor hair of him. Really beautiful hair. And I think that would be a really big boost if he can come back. It's obviously got to, be the Chong that we hope. But if he doesn't want to be playing in League One, whether that's with Luton or a summer move, who knows? Then he'll have to show the best of himself.
Yeah, kind of feel like a new signing, won't he? QPR was the last time he played. That was first game of 2025. Not played since then. So what's that? 2.5 months. Blimey, how we've missed him. Maybe not missed him from the start, but you look at some of the options we've had on benches in that time. We've certainly missed him. Then
I mean, Chong knows where the goal is as well. So if he can come back and add that impact, then great. Then we've got hope on the goal scoring front. We've got hope that the Middlesbrough game was an anomaly, and they can create enough chances there, and they put them in. Certainly, probably 9 times out of 10, and Asgard's going to put it in from 5 yards. It's just as it happened, it didn't, and we were all annoyed by that. But yeah, Brown obviously had offered goals. Relatively speaking.
The 2 weeks have given us 2 weeks more training of Reece Burke. I think we're going to see a lot more of Reece Burke over these last 8 games. Former club here, isn't it? So he'll want to play in this game. This is going to sound really, really stupid because not for the first time, admittedly. Yeah,
come on then.
Not for the first time, admittedly, but for the first time since he joined the club, I'm not sure he can get in this back 3.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think it sounds stupid. I think that's a reasonable observation to make because of the strength of Christ Makoso. And
I think it sounds stupid because forever and a day we've been Reece Burke is the best defender at the club, and now he's fit and he can't get into a back 3. But and we do think it'll be a back 3. Yeah. We should stress that we don't think there's any formation changes. It worked. I don't like it. I'll take that till to my deathbed. But it worked against Middlesbrough. to the point that he's not going to change it for Hull away. Had it not have worked against Middlesbrough, maybe we would be talking a different thing here, but it did up until putting the ball in the back of the net. That's not the formation. That's the personnel doing that.
Yeah, and certainly when you're talking about the solidity at the back from that game, I mean, 0 shots on target is phenomenal from the amount of, the sieve-like defence we've had all season. Christ coming in, McGuinness had picked up, there was a mistake in him every game at the beginning of the season. He seems to rectified that a little bit. And that happened as well when he was playing alongside Cal Naismith. If you've got a Cal Naismith on the bench and he can't get in the starting lineup, and you still can manage to do that against a Borough side, injury hitters, they were still chasing for a playoff place, then it's very strange, isn't it, to be talking about a defence where we've got bodies for a start, but the fact that, probably Reece Burke wouldn't go in as a starter, but that's because of the length of his injury out, and then you don't sort of change. It's not a winning formula, but it is a formula. So you don't sort of tinker with that too much when it's worked. And it did. So I think that you're probably right that he'd have to bide his time, but what an option.
Well, one of the reasons why the defence suddenly improved is because it's not getting changed every 5 minutes. First 4 months of the season, I don't think we put the same back three out at all. It was Holmes in at one point, Bell was in at another point, Burke was in, then McGuinness was in, Mads Anderson came in for 5 or 10 minutes here or there, and Mengi was there at various points, but none of them kind of played 15 games together, or they still haven't played 15 games together, but Makose's now had 5 or 6 games. McGuinness has been there regularly. Amari Bell's been back for a few more than that. So there's a bit of continuity. It'll be interesting to see if Amari plays, though. Been here, there and everywhere with Jamaica this week, trying to qualify for the Gold Cup. Lots of flying and all of that involved. Maybe Cal plays that left-sided role just to give Amari a little bit more time to recover, because I do think one of the reasons why he's picked up a lot of injuries is he's coming back from this international duties, and he's usually getting back on a Thursday morning-ish, isn't he? And then he's straight into action on a Saturday lunchtime. Hasn't really got time to recover. I mean, coming through time zones and things like that. It's not like, his international duty was in Birmingham or something, Jamaica. Maybe that's the opportunity to get Cal into the team. Not the opportunity, because Amari, certainly in the 2 games preceding the international break, did nothing to suggest that he should have come out. But Cal's an option, isn't he? And if Amari's not good to go, we don't know exactly how he's played on the international list, but if he's not good to go, Cal's there and he can just slot into that position.
I think that would make sense. I mean, he's virtually had 2 years of no break, hasn't he? He's been, and there's fair play. He's a regular with Jamaica and stuff like that. But I think that I don't think that this is why that team was picked against Middlesbrough. But when you look at it with a wider lens, then I think maybe it would work well that Amari played that game, go international break, and Cal can come in. There's going to be no qualms about that whatsoever, are they? It's like I say, it's you've got this situation where if you're struggling to get Reece Burke and Cal Naismith into a backline, then you must be okay. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, look, if those two are fit on our bench for the last 8 games, you've got to think we're going to win football matches, because that's a good. They get into all the other 7 around us. It's as simple as that. So yeah, that bodes well. Midfield been working well as well. Clearly I have my issues with the sort of makeup of the midfield, and that's fine. But Clark's been really good.
Yep.
Certainly in these 4 games that I referenced earlier in the podcast, he's been really, really good. It was his driving run against Portsmouth, and ultimately his goal was the reward for that. And of course, you just mentioned the potential. What did Mark call it? Sliding doors moment, wasn't it? At Cardiff, very, very good against Middlesbrough as well. Liam Walsh has been good in the times that he's been on the pitch too. He seems to be the sacrificial lamb. He's the first one off from that midfield, so I don't know if he's carrying an injury or something. But if he is, he's had 2 weeks to get that right as well. He'll be a big player over the remainder of time. And then Tello Asgard, I mean, this guy's going to be buzzing, isn't he? He's just spent a fortnight in the pocket of Erling Haaland. So if you're not learning from him, and Martin Odegaard as well, probably more reference for Asgard being in a similar position than Haaland, he should be coming back tickety-boo, shouldn't he, really? First international call-up to that side as well, so huge couple of weeks, and of course it was his winner in the last away game as well. Those three, you don't need to change those three really after an international break, but it's options again on the bench, isn't it? Lamine Fana, okay, still observing Ramadan, but at least this one's earlier in the day, so he'll be a little bit stronger than maybe if it was heading towards sunset sort of thing. Zach Nelson, not gone away on international duty this time around, so maybe that's a little bit between his teeth to get back on the pitch and perform. Tahith Chong, Josh Bowler, lots of midfield options all of a sudden.
Yeah, there is. I'm with you. I wouldn't change the three at the moment. I don't think Asgard would come out anyway. He's young enough and fit enough, played enough games, got plenty of energy, and what he showed against Middlesbrough in that first half, he was one of the best players on the pitch, involved in quite a lot. And he's obviously the one. I think I've said this before. While Bloomfield hasn't, he's almost like Bloomfield's marquee signing of that transfer window, isn't it? He's showing signs, and obviously he's got a high ceiling to improve in that role as well. Clark's been very good. My one reservation about Clark, and it will never change because he's naturally a winger, is that he's not very good at tackling. But you've got Liam Walsh there as well doing the business, and I think he's been really understatedly good actually. Liam Walsh, I think some people may still be reeling from the 2 red cards and stuff, but I think he's played his way back into many people's favour, I think, and I would start those. They've had the break. The options that you talk about, again, it's really good. The back line and the midfield, not a problem. Obviously, we know where the issues are, but it's not. It's the issues are clearly not that we're not creating now, and it's just getting them in the right position and somehow getting them to stick the ball in the net. Strikers.
Yeah, the one thing Bloomfield's done with regards to Clark, apart from set pieces, he's nowhere near our backline. And that's good.
Yeah,
because we've got enough defenders. We want midfielders further up the pitch, get the ball off of them and go with it. Those midfield three are playing. They're probably the catalyst in this turnaround. To be fair to them, the defense has tightened up absolutely, but it's tightened up because the midfielders are using the ball an awful lot better than what they were doing. Obviously, sometimes the defenders are still whacking it too long to the strikers and bypassing midfielders. But when we've played well, the last 20 minutes at Cardiff, that little period against Portsmouth where we were just getting going towards the end of the first half, and the first half on Saturday prior to the international break, the midfield were involved, and that was good. We hope Izzy Jones comes back from international duty absolutely fine, because he's another one who's doing the rounds, playing with Guyana. He's got a 2-legged tie against Guatemala, I think it was, to qualify for the Gold Cup. If he comes back okay, he'll stay at right wing back. Absolutely no problem with that. Of course, Alfie's going to be left wing back, and that does leave your front two. Lots of people, both before and after Middlesbrough, are questioning the Morris-Adebayo partnership. Look, I get it. We all get it. We all look. If the two of them were sat here right now, they would say to us they've not scored enough goals. They're well aware of the situation. They're not scoring goals on purpose. There's just some sort of mentality block between entering that penalty box and the ball entering the back of the net. But Matt's adamant, and he spoke about it after the Middlesbrough game, that performances yield results. And their 2 performances against Middlesbrough were of a high level. Steve said that he thought Elijah was the best player on the pitch. I think we both went the other way and we thought Carlton was the best player on the pitch. Yeah. But either way, they both played really, really well. In light of the fact that we don't think Jacob Brown is going to be fit, and Lasse Nordas looks a gallop or 2 off the pace, it's got to be these front 2, unless you're going to play Millie Ali there. But I think if you're going to play him up front, Millie Ali, you'd play him up front as an impact against tired defenders rather than from the start. And I'm just thinking in my head, Morris, pretty sure it was him who laid the ball off to Henry Lansbury for the lawnmower goal when we were up there last time. So Morris has played there and he's sort of done the job against them. And if we have to go with those two anyway, just purely because there are no other options, and we just got to hope that one of them clicks in these last 8 games, preferably here. And I mean, we could just do with a penalty, couldn't we? Just for Carlton to roll it in and get going again, something to hit Elijah's ass or whatever it is. Depending on Brown's long-term stuff, and we'll find out more about that at the press conference, I'm sure. So by the time you listen to this, you might even already know it. But for the foreseeable immediate, it's these two, isn't it? Is it ideal? No. Club clearly tried to sign another striker in the summer, couldn't get him, and that's just unfortunate. So they were, and in January with Richard Kone as well. So they're well aware of the situation, but ultimately we didn't land those targets. And that's what we're left with. We just got to hope 2 years ago, Carlton and Elijah, or Premier League Carlton and Elijah, have been refound in this last 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, bar the one chance that Morris had at Cardiff, he's not really had that many, has he? That's the problem. It's that they've all been falling to Elijah, and they probably still will if those two play, because Carlton's been the man dropping deep, and he was phenomenal against Borough. Won nearly everything in the air. His hold-up play was magnificent, compared to like completely ineffectual, and he wasn't the only one at Watford, for instance. Against Borough, he was like back to almost his best, but he wasn't getting the chances, whereas they failed to, well, one very good one, obviously, that Borough coughed up to Elijah, should have scored, and then there's another one that, again, Morris created when he dinked it into the 6-yard box, and Samuel William Jr. threw himself in the way somehow. Still remarkable when you see it, how acrobatic that was, because Elijah must have thought this one was it. So yeah, it probably is going to be those two, because if you think about Millie Ali, and he has been good, not in every game, but when he's made an impact, say against Cardiff, he was very good coming off his impact. If you were going to pair Millie Ali with either of them, you probably wouldn't do it with Elijah and Millie Ali, because Elijah hasn't been as dominant in the air for any of those flick-ons that Morris had. So it'd have to be Morris and Ali. And actually, if you look at it like that, I would be quite comfortable with that, because Millie Ali's got the pace to chase down those knockdowns if Morris is bang up for it, which he looked like he was. So I'd be comfortable with that if that happened. What I haven't had a big enough sample size enough of yet is Millie Ali and his work rate off the ball, because whatever people want to say about Elijah, and they often say he's a bit lazy, but he works the press really, really well. You can't deny that against him. But they pick up on the goals that he's not scoring, and that the stats are clear there. But just judging on what Bloomfield was saying after the Borough game, his confidence is still there. He still really rates Adebayo. That you would imagine that those two, Morris and Adebayo, would be the two.
Yep, I would too. So largely unchanged side. It's just whether Amari's fit after international duty. Sorry, not fit. Fatigued after international duty. In which case, if he is, Cal Naismith comes in at left wing back. Rest of the team largely unchanged. It wasn't a winning team the last time out, but it kind of felt like a winning team. Comparison,
it should have been a winning
yeah.
team. There's no question about that. Middlesbrough absolutely robbed a point there, so they got away with one.
Indeed. So yep, not much to change there, that's for sure. Where do we hurt Hull? Well, we hurt Hull in the way that we hurt all the other teams in this league. Balls into the box. They're not great at it. Get the ball out wide. If you get the ball out wide to the right-hand side, you never know. Their left back might chase a squirrel rather than the football again, like he did against Norwich. That would be rather handy. But that was a cross into the box that they scored from. Norwich, that is the way in. You know, set pieces, they're a big thing for us, aren't they? And over the last 8 games, let's hope they click into gear again. They've not been quite as prolific as they have been in recent times, but that's fine. But it'd be nice if they come back to the party again on Saturday afternoon, won't it? That is for That's for sure. Don't know if it helps that Pedro's suspended, because he couldn't hit a cow's ass with a million shovels down at our place, but kept on missing from 6 yards out, didn't he? I tell you what, that would be a good competition, him and Elijah from a 6-yard shootout, wouldn't it, right now? But he is suspended, unfortunately. Let's hope that his backup's nowhere near as useful or any more useful than what he is, that's for sure. Cody Drame up against us. Looked all right down here. Don't look all right up there, Cody. Have the day off, mate.
Will he be against Alfie, won't he?
No, he plays left back for him, doesn't he?
Yeah, so
up against Izzy.
You know, Izzy Jones has been fantastic. I've said this before. He's been really good, improving all the time. The only thing he needs to improve now is his crossing, because his final ball hasn't been there. I can't think of an assist he's got yet. Maybe I'm wrong there and doing it a disservice, but everything up to that final point has been really good. And you know, as good as Cody Drummer was when he was here, he still won't like the pace of Jones. And when he does fancy it, Jones, the directness of what he does is simple but beautiful, because it's just knock it past him and run and see what you can get. And I would like to see that battle.
Yeah, it would be a good one. Just on Izzy Jones, Jimbo sat down with him after the Middlesbrough game, and quite an open interview, actually, that he wrote up on the Lutonian.com. Head over to that. It's well worth a read if you haven't already done so. Good guy.
Yeah, it's really one of the most fascinating football chats I've had, to certainly this season, but for a long time. He's just a very sort of open guy, and laid out sort of the troubles that he had at Middlesbrough. It was a terrible situation that he had to go through, and you wouldn't wish that on anybody, but he's sort of come out the other side of it now, and says he's loving football again, and he looks like he's loving football again. So yeah, he's the improvement has been there as well throughout since he's come in. So it's kind of what we were expecting from that signing, and if you can have an improvement on improvement for the final 8 games, then it could be a big weapon for Luton.
Needs a song, doesn't he, Izzy Jones? He's that exciting player that you're going to be singing about a lot in a Luton shirt. Needs a song. Get to work, people.
Yeah. I think maybe a goal helps that, doesn't it? Or a big what do they call it now? A goal intervention,
contribution.
That's it. Goal contribution. Bloody hell, these stats they come out with now. But
not a stats man, Jimbo.
It's just
not a stats man.
It's either an assist or it's nothing, isn't it?
Or even they're only new as well, aren't they? Assists are the only thing you heard of was in ice hockey back in our day. Old boy, back in our day. So that's how we see it. Crosses into the box, relatively unchanged team. Let's go at them. They're not brilliant at home. We can soon get this crowd to turn. I'm absolutely sure of that. And, Jimbo's already given us 3 points, so it'll be interesting to see if he comes out with that reverse psychology nonsense.
Listen, I haven't given Luton 3 points. The stats have given Luton 3 points, that every time they come out of an international break, they've won a game of football. That's what's there. I'm just the messenger. I don't want anybody coming up to me and saying anything other. Just pointing it out.
Let's hope the message has got through to the away dressing room on Saturday, that's for sure. We'll leave you with our score predictions. Score prediction from me, I'll keep it simple. Same score as what it was there last time we were there, 2-0 to Luton.
So do I carry on with my reverse psychology win? And I said I would, so I have to. But I'm confident about this. I'm confident of the reverse psychology for the win of 2-1 to Hull. Reverse psychology for win. Remember that part.
Speaking of which, the person who came up to you at Middlesbrough and said reverse psychology for the wins got in touch. Stuart Timms is the person in question.
Stuart, thanks, mate. I'm sorry. I was completely of two minds and didn't get your name. So thanks for that. Yeah. It made me chuckle when you said it. And that's a catchphrase. I've nicked it off someone else anyway. So, but I'll own it.
2-1 to Hull for Jimbo, 2-0 to me. Plenty of time to get your score predictions in for this one. Final 8 games. Who can get the correct score at the MKM Stadium? As ever, you'll get a shout out in the review podcast if you get it spot on, which hopefully plenty of you do if you go for a Luton win. That is almost it for this episode of the podcast. If you've got a ticket to the away end on Saturday, be loud, be proud. Get right behind these boys. Listen, I say it all the time. and you're probably getting bored of me saying it. So do you know what? We asked a special man to give his input into the situation, and here's the man who led the recovery out of the conference to tell you exactly what you need to do on Saturday.
I think that the football team, let's separate team and club. I think the football team have given you some great moments over the last few years, would you say? Promotions, Premier League.
Yeah.
Did any of you think 7 years ago you'd be in the Premier League? Don't feel so. And you have done. So now the club needs you. Now they need their supporters to get behind them. Minute 1 to minute 95, 96, 97, support your team with everything you've got, even if they're shocking. So when they come off, they're not aggrieved that their support hasn't got behind them. And when they come back out for the next game, give it again. Just give it everything you've got. And that will keep the players on a higher level, knowing that if I make a mistake, no one's going to be shouting or telling me I'm useless and telling me I can't do this and can't do that. Not always easy to do because I'm also a supporter of a club, 2 clubs. But what I'm saying is your support helped change our season when I was here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pulling the supporter off, come in our huddle, be part of the team. All little things, you know. Sometimes people don't notice, but they are so massive to players. I just think that they've given you so much. The club has given you so much. The players that have played for this club through the leagues have given you so much. I don't know if you're going to stay up. I don't, right? And I can guess and I can hope and do all that. But I do know that games are won and lost on inches. Seriously. Play a ball a second too quick and it's gone past someone. A second too slow, it's gone behind them. Cross the ball half a second too slow and the forward's going to run past the ball. It's all about inches. Give the boys the inches. Give them everything you've got and just hope that it all falls into place. And you know what? I think it can. So I'll tell you why. Because the supporters of this club have done it before. You can do it again.
Don't take our word for it, Jimbo. If John still says it, get it done.
The stronger the team, the stronger the team. Come on.
Control the controllables, Town. We can do this on Saturday, that's for sure. Thanks to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for all our intro music, and to S. Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. The review episode should be out at the same time as it usually is, but hit that subscribe button and you'll find out exactly when it is. So from Jimbo and myself, come on, you Hatters, let's get right into this now.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.